Another rotation begins aboard Deep Space Station Nexus 7, and once again, I find myself watching the lesser species scatter like frightened prey animals when I enter the communal dining sector. Amusing, really. Some nearly drop their nutrient trays. Others press themselves against the walls, trying to become one with the metallic surfaces. Most just flee. 3,000 cycles since the Great War ended, and still my presence causes such delightful chaos. You would think they had never seen a warborn before. Then again, perhaps they haven't. I am the last of my kind, the final warrior created in the birthing chambers of Kraxus Prime before our victory brought peace to the galaxy. My name is Kaalix, and I stand 3 meters tall with battle-scarred crimson scales that put these soft-skinned species to shame. The ceremonial blades strapped across my back probably don't help ease their anxiety. Neither does my tendency to bare my teeth in what humans call a smile whenever someone looks my way. Speaking of humans, they're the newest arrivals to this sector of space. Fascinating creatures, really. So fragile-looking compared to my kind, yet they've managed to spread across dozens of systems in just a few centuries. Their diplomatic corps practically begged Station Command to let them establish a permanent research facility here. The station commander, a gelatinous blob of a being named Administrator Pax, had the nerve to ask if I would mind their presence. As if I, a warborn, would concern myself with the comings and goings of short-lived species. I simply told them to keep the humans out of my designated sectors. Yet here I am, watching through the transparisteel viewport as their latest shuttle docks. Something about this batch feels different. The energy readings from their vessel are unusual, not that I particularly care. Let them conduct their little experiments. As long as they maintain their distance, we won't have any problems. A group of maintenance workers spots me and immediately changes direction, their footsteps echoing down the corridor as they retreat. Even young Kaalix, who has worked on this station nearly as long as I have, still refuses to meet my gaze. Smart of them, really. The stories they tell about my kind are mostly true. Mostly. The warning klaxon sounds shift change approaching. Time to return to my quarters in the restricted sector. My daily circuit of the station complete. Another rotation of blessed solitude awaits, just as I prefer it. Though lately, no. Better not to complete that thought. Better to embrace the isolation that has served me so well these past centuries. Better to remain as I am feared, respected, alone. It is the way of the warborn. The only way I have ever known. The shuttle's docking sequence completes with a resonant thrum that vibrates through the station's superstructure. Tomorrow, no doubt, I will have new humans to terrify. For now, I have my memories and my honor. It is enough. It has always been enough. The new humans arrived precisely as expected, a parade of wide eyes and barely concealed terror. All except one. I watched from my usual perch in the observation gallery as they filed through the airlock, dragging their equipment cases and chattering amongst themselves. Standard protocol dictated that Administrator Pax greet all new arrivals personally, their translucent form quivering with forced enthusiasm as they welcomed each researcher by name. Maya Winters, lead xenobiologist. Welcome to Nexus 7. A tall woman with silver-streaked hair stepped forward, maintaining admirable composure despite noticing my presence above. Thank you, Administrator. My team is eager to begin our work. One by one, they introduced themselves. Dr. This, Professor, that titles meant to impress, no doubt. Then came the last one. Average height for their species, with short auburn hair and what appeared to be decorative markings along their neck tattoos, the humans call them. River Blake, Environmental Systems Specialist. No fancy title, no trembling. And when they spotted me watching, they did something unprecedented. They waved. They waved at me, a warborn, as if I were some commonplace acquaintance. I nearly fell from my perch in shock. Below, Administrator Pax's gelatinous form rippled with alarm, clearly expecting me to descend and eviscerate the presumptuous human on the spot. The rest of the research team collectively held their breath. Instead, I found myself lifting my own clawed hand in an awkward approximation of their greeting. What possessed me to do so, I cannot say. The human river responded with a grin that showed entirely too many teeth for such a small creature. Fascinating markings they called up to me. Natural coloration or ceremonial. Their team leader, Winters, grabbed their arm with obvious panic. "River, please." We were briefed about the station's permanent residents. The war-born prefers not to be disturbed. "The war-born can speak for himself," I rumbled, dropping down to their level with practiced ease. The assembled humans stumbled backward. All except River Blake, who stood their ground with infuriating casualness. "Both," I answered, towering over them. "The base patterns are natural. The battle scars are earned." "Cool. We have something similar on Earth scarification ceremonies, though probably not as intense as actual combat." Their enthusiasm was unsettling. No one had shown such interest in my markings since the final days of the war. Most species preferred to pretend the war-born didn't exist at all. River Winters hissed, "We have orientation to complete." Right. "Nice meeting you. Sorry I didn't catch your name." "Kaalix," I found myself responding, before I could think better of it. "See you around, Kaalix." And with that, they allowed themselves to be herded away with the rest of their team, leaving me to wonder what sort of madness had infected this particular human. More importantly, what sort of madness had infected me that I had actually engaged in conversation. Administrator packs oozed closer, their translation matrix struggling to convey their concern. "Most unusual. Perhaps we should reassign the human to prevent further incidents." "No," I said, surprising myself again. "They are amusing, for now." As you wish, their relief was palpable. The last thing they wanted was to explain to Earth's diplomatic corps why one of their researchers had been reassigned due to excessive friendliness. I watched the humans disappear down the corridor, my enhanced hearing catching fragments of their conversation. "Are you trying to get yourself killed? Did you see those scale patterns? Amazing. This isn't one of your extreme tourism adventures, River. That's a war-born." "Yeah, and he seems lonely." "Lonely? Absurd. I am a warrior of the ancient bloodlines, bred for combat, trained in the arts of death. I do not get lonely." The human's words bothered me far more than they should have, as did the lingering sensation that tomorrow's rotation might prove more interesting than usual. Perhaps it was time to modify my daily circuit of the station. For security purposes, of course. Nothing more. Humans, I've discovered, have absolutely no sense of proper survival instincts. Case in point, River Blake has developed the thoroughly irritating habit of appearing wherever I conduct my daily inspections. "Morning, Kaalix. Fancy meeting you here in the hydroponics bay." As if they hadn't deliberately timed their maintenance check to coincide with my rounds. I turned slowly, letting my claws click against the metal flooring. "Your definition of morning is meaningless in space." "Yeah, but it's morning somewhere, right?" They were already buried waist deep in an access panel, apparently trusting that I wouldn't simply kick them into the machinery. "Hey, while you're here, mind holding this light? My third hand is in my other pants." I found myself holding their work light before I'd even processed the request. "Your species only has 2 hands." That was a joke. You know, humor? Though I guess war-born comedy probably involves more actual combat. Our humor typically results in fewer survivors. I adjusted the light beam. "You missed a coupling." "Thanks. See, we make a great team." The sheer audacity. "We are not a team. I am merely preventing you from damaging station equipment through incompetence." Sure. Whatever helps you sleep at night, big guy." This has become our new normal. River appearing in my vicinity with increasingly improbable excuses, chattering away while they work. More disturbingly, I've caught myself adjusting my patrol schedule to intersect with their maintenance routes. The other humans remain appropriately terrified, though their fear now carries notes of confusion. Even young Kaalix has started giving me strange looks when they think I won't notice. You actually find their constant prattle entertaining. Administrator Pax asked during one of our mandatory status meetings. Entertaining is not the word I would choose. Annoying, perhaps. Perplexing, certainly. They show a warrior's disregard for personal safety. That's one way to put it. Yesterday they asked if you'd be interested in something called movie night. I flexed my claws. I trust you explained that war-born do not participate in such frivolities. Naturally, they said to tell you they're showing something called Jurassic Park. Apparently it features, and I quote, awesome dinosaurs eating people. Dinosaurs. Ancient Earth reptiles. Similar to your species in appearance, though far less evolved. Purely for anthropological research purposes, when is this viewing scheduled? The administrator's gelatinous form rippled in what I chose to interpret as judgment. Later that rotation, I found River calibrating environmental sensors in Sector 7. Your dinosaurs were primitive creatures. Hello to you too. Been doing some research, have we? Know your enemy's history. Basic combat protocol. Are we enemies now? And here I thought we were becoming friends. The word sent an uncomfortable shiver down my spine ridges. War-born do not have friends. First time for everything. Speaking of which, you coming to movie night? I saved you a seat. Well, several seats, given your size. I do not. There's popcorn. I failed to see how exploded grain kernels. And no one else will sit within 10 meters of you, so you'll have plenty of personal space. I narrowed my eyes. What time? Their grin was insufferably triumphant. 1900 station time. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone you're coming because you're secretly curious about Earth culture. I am attending solely to correct any inaccuracies in your species' depiction of large reptilians. Obviously, wouldn't expect anything else from a fearsome warrior like yourself. Your sarcasm is noted and not appreciated. Noted and continuing anyway. Oh, and Kaalix? The maintenance team's betting pool has you down as secretly enjoying our chats. I've got 20 credits riding on it. I leaned down until my face was centimeters from theirs. Then you are about to lose 20 credits. We'll see. They patted my arm, actually patted it, and sauntered away, whistling some irritating Earth tune. The truly disturbing part? They were right about the chats. Not that I would ever admit it. I have standards to maintain, after all. A reputation built on centuries of careful intimidation. Even if I did find myself looking forward to their next ridiculous appearance. For purely tactical reasons, of course. A war-born must always know their enemy's location. The fact that this particular enemy brings amusing stories and occasionally shares their contraband coffee rations is entirely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. I am definitely not smiling as I write this. Humans have far too many social rituals. This became painfully apparent during what River calls the Great High Five incident. I was conducting my usual security sweep when River burst out of the research lab, exclaiming, "We did it. The quantum stabilizer works." They raised their hand in my direction, palm forward. Naturally, I interpreted this as a challenge gesture. Within seconds, I had them pinned against the wall, my ceremonial blades drawn. Oh, easy there, big guy. It's just a high five. A what? It's a celebration thing. You slap palms, no combat involved. Releasing them, I straighten my battle harness. Your species celebrates by striking each other's hands. When you say it like that, it does sound weird. They demonstrated the motion. See? Harmless. Your cultural practices are bizarre and potentially dangerous. What if you attempted this high five with a Nexian? Their acidic secretions would burn your hand off. That's actually a really good point. Maybe I should make a cultural exchange guide. Which is how I found myself reluctantly participating in what River termed Alien Customs 101 sessions. The research team gathered in the recreation area, maintaining a respectful distance as River explained various human greetings. So fist bumps are like high fives, but with closed hands. I examined my own clawed fist. Your species intentionally punches each other in friendship. It's more of a gentle tap. Here, try it. The resulting clang echoed through the station as my armored fist met their fragile human hand. River spent the next 10 minutes shaking feeling back into their fingers while I endured Administrator Pax's disapproving ripples. Perhaps the administrator suggested we should focus on less physical interactions. But humans, I've learned, are relentlessly determined creatures. River began incorporating war-born customs into their daily routine, albeit with mixed results. They attempted our traditional greeting roar in the mess hall, sending 3 maintenance workers diving under tables. Their effort to replicate our victory stance resulted in a pulled muscle and a stern lecture from their medical officer. The war-born salute requires 3 arms, I pointed out as they struggled with the pose. Details, details. Oh hey, speaking of details, what's the deal with the thing you do before meals? That chest-thumping ritual. It honors fallen warriors and acknowledges the sacrifice of our prey. The next day, I found them solemnly thumping their chest before eating a nutrition bar. They nearly choked when I informed them that the ritual requires specific harmonics only possible with war-born vocal structures. Now you tell me. No wonder everyone was staring. They always stare at you. You consort with a war-born. Consort? Makes it sound so formal. We're just hanging out. War-born do not hang out, says the guy who watched 3 Jurassic Park movies with us. I was conducting a cultural analysis. Sure, and those weren't excitement growls I heard during the T-Rex scenes. The truly absurd part came during the station's annual safety drill. River's team was practicing emergency protocols when they suggested incorporating war-born battle techniques. Your evacuation procedures are inefficient, I found myself explaining to a bewildered Administrator Pax. The human's idea of using our carry holds has merit. You want to let them ride on your back, like hatchlings, in emergency situations only. Their shorter legs limit evacuation speed. The mighty Kaalix, last of the warborn, reduced to a transport service. I bared my teeth. I could demonstrate our traditional response to mockery. The administrator's form rippled hastily away. Later, River found me in my usual observation spot. Hey, sorry if the evacuation thing offended you. I didn't mean to disrespect your traditions. You did not, I shifted uncomfortably. Your suggestion was tactically sound. Really? Because we could practice the technique, for safety reasons. You are not climbing on my back. Fair enough. How about we practice the war-born meditation chant instead? You cannot pronounce our language. Watch me try. Their attempt sounded like a malfunctioning airlock crossed with a dying earth creature called a goose. I definitely did not laugh. War-born do not laugh. I may have produced an amused rumble. For diplomatic reasons. By the end of the rotation, we had established a bizarre hybrid of customs. They no longer attempted high fives but would offer a warrior's nod. I learned to moderate my strength for their fist bumps. They still couldn't pronounce our battle prayers, but their enthusiasm was not entirely unwelcome. You realize, Administrator Pax observed, that you're creating an entirely new cultural protocol. Nonsense. I am merely preventing diplomatic incidents by teaching them war-born victory dances. They asked about exercise routines. Of course they did. The administrator's translation matrix conveyed clear skepticism, and the fact that you seem to be enjoying these lessons is purely coincidental. I chose not to dignify that with a response. Warborn do not enjoy things. We endure. We conquer. We definitely don't teach humans modified versions of hatchling training games because their surprise delight is entertaining. Definitely not. The station's emergency sirens blared without warning during third rotation, their howling harmonics triggering ancient combat reflexes. My sensory ridges detected a pressure change, subtle but growing, not good. Warning. Hull breach detected in Research Sector B. Emergency containment protocols in Research Sector B River's workspace. I was moving before conscious thought engaged, my claws leaving scoring marks in the deck plating. The station's automated systems were already sealing emergency bulkheads, but my enhanced hearing picked up sounds of chaos ahead. Multiple containment failures. Administrator Pax's voice crackled over the comm system. All personnel evacuate immediately. I rounded the corner to find a scene of controlled panic. Research team members rushed to secure volatile experiments before evacuation. Through the reinforced viewport, I spotted the problem. A spider web of cracks spreading across the external hull, likely caused by micrometeor impact. Kaalix. Maya Winters spotted me first. Rivers trapped in the environmental control room. The emergency seals activated before I was already moving. The control room lay beyond 3 sets of sealed bulkheads, each designed to contain vacuum, but warborne armor isn't standard equipment. Administrator, I require override access. Impossible. Protocol states. Override. Something in my tone must have convinced them. The first barrier lifted just enough for me to slide under. Warning klaxons screamed as atmosphere hissed through growing hull breaches. River, status report. Their voice came through patchy on station comms. Bit busy, trying to reroute power to secondary containment fields. Primary grids failing. The second barrier proved more challenging. I had to force it open manually, servos screaming in protest. Abandon the systems. Get out. Can't. If these fields fail, we lose the whole research wing. Years of work plus about 6 extremely nasty viral samples we really don't want exposed to space. Of course, only River would risk their life for research samples. The third barrier wasn't opening at all. Stand back from the door. What are you? Oh no, don't you dare. I rammed the barrier with my armored shoulder. Once, twice. The metal buckled. The station's structural integrity is already compromised. River protested. Then work faster. The emergency lights cast everything in bleeding crimson as I fought with the barrier. River's fingers flew across control panels, their face lit by failing screens. The hull breach was spreading. I could hear the metal strain. Almost got it. Secondary fields holding at 60%. Now get out. 1 more minute. Need to lock in the containment protocols. The viewport behind them cracked. A spiderweb of lines appearing in the transparent metal. No time for subtlety. I tore through the weakened barrier, crossed the space in 2 strides, and simply grabbed River around the waist. Hey, put me down. I need to... Silence. The viewport shattered. Emergency force fields snapped into place, but the room was losing atmosphere fast. I tucked River against my armored chest and 3 barriers. Decompressions warnings, failing lights. My armor's joints creaked under pressure as we fought our way back through what was rapidly becoming a vacuum. River had stopped protesting, instead clinging to my battle harness as we moved. Good, at least they had some survival instincts. We cleared the final barrier just as the emergency containment fields stabilized. I didn't stop running until we reached the secure zone where medical teams were assessing evacuees. That River gasp as I set them down was amazing. Also terrifying, but mostly amazing. The way you just... What were you thinking? I snarled, looming over them. You nearly got yourself killed. I was thinking about saving irreplaceable research data and preventing a potential viral containment breach. You know, small stuff like that. Your life is not worth. Worth what? The lives that research could save. The discoveries that could... Is worth my breaking every warborne code by feeling fear that stopped them. Around us, the medical team suddenly found other places to be. You were afraid. For me? I turned away, my armored tail lashing in agitation. Warborne do not feel fear. We do not form attachments. We do not risk ourselves for other species. But you did. Their hand touched my arm, gently, despite everything that had just happened. A week's worth of mandatory safety reviews followed. Administrator Pax was less than pleased about the damaged barriers, but even they couldn't argue with the results. The research was safe, no one was seriously injured, and the whole breach was successfully contained. But something else had been breached, something far more personal. We both knew it, though neither of us. I found River in the observation dome that evening, watching repair drones work on the damaged section. "The Warborn have a saying," I said quietly. "Fear is wisdom in the face of danger." That's surprisingly philosophical. We are not mere brutes, despite what most species believe. "I never thought you were." They smiled. "So does this mean we're officially friends now?" "It means I will continue to prevent you from getting yourself killed through reckless behavior." "I'll take that as a yes." I rumbled non-committally. We watched the stars in silence for a while. "Hey, Kaalix." "Yes." "Next time I try to sacrifice myself for science, feel free to drag me out sooner." "Noted." And if I stayed a bit closer during their shifts after that, well, it was purely for tactical reasons. Obviously. The breaking point came during what humans call movie night. The research team had chosen something called E.T., a story about friendship between different species. I found myself watching River more than the screen, noting how they mouthed along with certain lines, their eyes bright with what humans call nostalgia. After the viewing, they followed me to my usual observation post. The silence between us felt heavy, charged with unspoken thoughts. "You've been avoiding me," River said finally. "Ever since the hull breach incident?" "I have been maintaining appropriate distance." "Appropriate for who? The Warborn code? The same code you broke to save my life." My claw scraped against the metal railing. "You do not understand." "Then help me understand. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're scared." "Warborn do not feel fear, right? Just like they don't make friends or watch movies or care if someone lives or dies. Except you do all those things." I turned to face them, drawing myself up to my full height. "You presume too much." "Do I? Then why did you save me? Why do you adjust your schedule to match mine? Why do you smile when you think no one's watching?" Enough. My roar echoed through the observation dome. In the old days, such a display would have sent any sane being running. River just crossed their arms and waited. 3,000 cycles, I said finally, my voice dropping to a low rumble. 3,000 cycles of isolation, of being the last, of watching lesser species cower and run. It was simple, clean. I knew my place. And now you refuse to cower, refuse to run. You bring chaos to order, laughter to silence. You make me feel things Warborn are not meant to feel. Like friendship, like weakness. River stepped closer, fearless as always. "Having friends isn't weakness, Kaalix. Being alone doesn't make you strong. It just makes you lonely. I am a warrior of the ancient bloodlines. The last of the Warborn. What? Happy? Cared for? Part of something?" My claws flexed involuntarily. "You cannot understand what it means to be the last, to carry the weight of an entire species' legacy." "Maybe not, but I understand what it means to be afraid of letting people in, to hide behind rules and protocols because it's easier than risking connection." They reached out, placing their small hand against my armored chest. "Your legacy doesn't have to be isolation. The Warborn were warriors, yes, but even warriors need allies, need friends." Something cracked then, not in my armor, but deeper. A wall built over centuries of solitude. "I do not know how to be this." "No one does at first. That's why we figure it out together." They grinned. "Besides, you're already pretty good at it, even if you pretend otherwise." I rumbled, a sound caught between amusement and resignation. "You are the most persistently annoying being I have ever encountered." "I'll take that as a compliment. Now, are you done with this whole pushing people away thing? Because the maintenance team's planning a karaoke night, and I really want to hear a Warborn attempt Earth songs." "Absolutely not." "We'll see." They patted my arm. "We'll see." Standing there, watching distant stars wheel past the observation window, I realized a fundamental truth. Some battles aren't meant to be won. Sometimes surrender is its own kind of victory. Not that I would ever tell River that. They were insufferable enough already. Maintaining warrior dignity while having a human best friend proves more challenging than any battle I've ever fought, especially when said friend insists on documenting everything they call character development moments. Look at this. River practically bounced into my quarters, waving their data pad. I made a timeline of your transformation from scary space warrior to secretly soft scary space warrior. I am not soft, says the guy who helped me rescue that stuck maintenance drone last week. It was making annoying noises, and named it Bob. A warrior's right to name vanquished foes is sacred tradition. Of course it is. They flopped into the oversized chair I'd acquired for them, purely to prevent them from sitting on my weapon rack, obviously. You know, the new research team members aren't even scared of you anymore. This was, unfortunately, true. The latest batch of humans had arrived last week, and rather than fleeing in terror, they actually waved. Some even smiled. Completely unacceptable. Perhaps I should reinstate my practice of ritual combat displays in the mess hall. Or maybe accept that you've become everyone's favorite grumpy guardian. I growled, but there was no real threat behind it. We both knew better now. Administrator Pax had noticed the change too. During our latest status meeting, their gelatinous form practically vibrated with amusement. The war-born who terrified galaxies, now supervising human movie nights. Who would have thought? I maintained security and order I corrected. The fact that it coincides with their recreational activities is irrelevant. Of course. And the war-born victory feast you hosted last rotation. Cultural exchange. Diplomatic necessity. You taught them traditional hatchling games. Combat training exercises. They were playing tag. I chose not to respond to that one. The truth is, River was right, as they so often are. Though I'll never admit it aloud. Something had changed. The station felt different now. Less like a self-imposed exile, more like. Home, River said one evening, as we watched repaired drones dance through space. That's what it's become for you, hasn't it? I considered denying it, but we were past that now. The war-born believed home was wherever your battle clan gathered, I said instead. I never understood that, until recently. Their smile could have powered the station's core. Does that make us your battle clan? You are adequate companions. For non-warriors. Audiobook love you too, big guy. Young Kaalix had started joining our observation sessions, their initial terror replaced by genuine curiosity about war-born history. Even Maya Winters occasionally sought my tactical advice on research security protocols. The station's rhythm changed. Where once being scattered from my path, now they simply moved aside respectfully. The terrified silence that followed me was replaced by quiet greetings, even occasional questions. I still maintained my warrior dignity, of course. My blades remained sharp, my armor polished. I continued my security patrols, though they now included checking on various humans' projects and well-being. You know what I think River said during one of our late cycle talks? I think the war-born weren't just warriors. I think they were protectors too. I paused in maintaining my ceremonial blade. Explain. Well, you fight fiercely, yeah, but not just for combat's sake. You fight for what matters, for your people, your home, your friends. The blade gleamed in the starlight. Perhaps, I admitted, there is wisdom in your words. Besides, they grinned. Who says being a friend makes you any less of a warrior? I'd argue it makes you a better one. They were right, though protocol demanded I grumble about it. The next rotation, I formally requested Administrator Pax update my station designation from Resident War-born to Security Chief. It felt right. Sure you don't want Resident Softy, instead River teased when they heard. I lifted them by the back of their uniform, ignoring their laughter. I can still throw you out an airlock. No, you can't. You'd miss me too much. True. But a warrior never admits such things. Instead, I simply set them down and said, the monthly security drill is tomorrow. Try not to embarrass yourself this time. Hey, I've been practicing the victory roar. ancestors preserve us. And so life continues aboard Nexus 7. I am still the last warborn, still a warrior of the ancient bloodlines. But now I am also something more: friend, protector, maybe even teacher. My ancestors might not understand, or perhaps they would. After all, the greatest warriors know that true strength lies not in standing alone, but in choosing who to stand beside. Even if those chosen companions are ridiculously fragile humans who refuse to show proper terror and insist on giving you nickname. Hey K-Man, movie night. We're watching Godzilla. Figure you might have some thoughts about giant reptiles. I sighed, already moving to follow. My thoughts are that your species has strange ideas about reptilian anatomy. That's why we need your expert commentary. Oh, and I brought snacks. Yes, dignity is harder to maintain these days. But somehow I find I don't mind quite as much anymore. After all, even warborn can evolve. Just don't tell River I said that.